The pluperfect is the tense which means had in English. For example, I had worked, you had finished, he had walked. Notice that there are some irregular tenses in English. For example, we had run, or they had bought. But in each case, you have had plus the past of the verb. It's important to note that it's had that is the distinguishing feature of the pluperfect and not have. I have run is a way of translating the perfect tense in Latin. This is a tense we use every day in English. You might, for instance, say, when I had finished my homework, I watched TV, or I ran home because I had missed the bus. Here, it's clear that the pluperfect is had finished, and in the next sentence, had missed. The original name for this tense was in fact the plus quam perfectus. Quam, you might remember, means than in Latin. Perfectus, think of the perfect tense. And plus, more, if you use plus in maths, it means you're adding, so something is becoming more. Why was it called more than the perfect? Well, let's think about what these events would look like on a timeline. They're both in the past. Imagine at some point you watch TV, perhaps last night at 8 p.m. Relative to that, where did the finishing the homework take place? Well, of course, it took place before that. So it was more in the past than the watching TV. Likewise, with this example, this is my timeline in the past. Well, I ran home at some point. When did the missing of the bus take place? Well, that of course happened before I ran home. So it was more in the past than the perfect, hence plus quam perfectus, but we just call it the pluperfect. Now, of course, there are a whole new set of endings, but they're easy. I'll show you the endings and you can think how it is that you already know them. That would be I had carried. Portaveras would be you had carried. Portaverat, he, she, or it had carried. Portaveramus, we had carried. Portaveratis, you, plural, had carried. And portaverant, of course, would be they had carried. Why are these straightforward? Exactly. They are the imperfect tense of the verb to be. Eram, erasirat, eramus, eratis, erant, which by itself, you remember, means I was. Another way of remembering it is simply, it's era with the normal person endings on it. St, mus, tis, und. The one exception is m. It's not an o like in the present tense, but we do at least see m in the imperfect. Think of bam, bas, bat, barmus, bartis, bant. The other thing that you look out for when you're spotting the pluperfect tense is the part of the verb that it comes from. Now, remember when you look up a verb now in the back of your textbook or in your vocabulary list, you're given 3 parts. 1, the form that means I do something. Porto means I carry. Secondly, the infinitive, which means to carry. And finally, the perfect tense, which means I carried. The pluperfect endings are added to the perfect stem. The perfect stem comes from the perfect tense of the verb. Take your perfect tense. To get the perfect stem, just take off the I. Portawi means I carried. We don't want to say that. We want to add a pluperfect ending. So, as I showed you here, there's my pluperfect. There's the perfect stem, I beg your pardon, and here are my pluperfect endings. The perfect stem of monui would be monu. The perfect stem of discedo would be disces. Just take off the I. So let's put that all together. If I wanted to form the pluperfect of this verb, conficio, conficere, confeci, meaning I finish, I would start by finding the perfect stem. I go to the third part, which is the perfect, take off the I, and then add my pluperfect endings. Let's imagine I wanted to say he had finished. What's the he form? There it is, it's erat. So it would become confake erat. He had finished. Here's one more example. Surgo, surgere, surrexi, which means I get up. Let's suppose we wanted to say they had gotten up. Go back to my pluperfect endings. The they form in the pluperfect is erant. So I would get my perfect stem from the perfect. That's it, no I, and then add my pluperfect ending, which was erant. So, surrex erant would mean they had gotten